Hello everyone, welcome to K2. Myself is Kavipriya and this is Sherina. Today CMG la EM subject பார்க்க போறோம். என்ன டாபிக்னா friction. First static friction, limiting friction, dynamic friction and relation between these friction, angle of friction and angle of repose.
So first of all, static friction. Static friction is denoted by Fs. Static friction is always proportional to normal reaction force. So in order to remove this proportionality constant, we take Fs is equal to mu Rn. So since it is static friction, it is denoted as mu s. So mu s is equal to Fs by Rn. The properties of static friction is that it is static friction will be directly proportional to reaction force. It is the first property. Second one is that it depends upon the area of contact, the nature of contact and the material of contact. Thirdly, static friction, it is independent on the area of contact. Second one is limiting friction. Limiting friction, it is denoted by F is equal to mu L or N. So the same, but only the denotation changes, that is mu L for limiting friction. Limiting friction will be always greater than static friction and it is always greater than dynamic friction too. So this is limiting friction. Next one is dynamic friction. Limiting friction, this is the maximum friction from which the body tends to move. The maximum amount of friction when we give to a body from which it tends to move is limiting friction. Then dynamic friction. Dynamic friction we denote it as Fd is equal to mu d or n. Mu d is equal to Fd by Rn, only the denotation will change. Now we will see the relation between the static friction, limiting friction and dynamic friction. So this is static friction. This is limiting friction. This is kinematic friction or dynamic friction. So this is how relation is, that is we have already seen that limiting friction, it will be greater than static friction and that will be greater than kinetic friction. This will be the relation and this will be the graph between the applied forces of friction. So next one is the angle of friction, that is tan theta is equal to mu s, theta is equal to tan inverse of mu s. So this is the angle between the static friction and the applied force. So the angle between the resultant of both the static friction and the applied force will be theta and that is called as the angle of friction. Then the angle of repose, this is the angle made between the horizontal, between the friction and the horizontal of the plane when the body moves downwards, and this angle is called as the angle of repose.
Okay, today video வந்துட்டு friction பார்த்தோம். Static friction, limiting friction, dynamic friction and relation between these friction, angle of friction, angle of repose. இது அழகா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ண ஷெரீனாக்கு தேங்க்ஸ். Thank you all.